Theatrical Shenanigans with...
Joe Swenson.
Hello there, and welcome to our fourth episode in this season of Theatrical Shenanigans. I can't believe we're almost at the halfway point already. For any new listeners out there, welcome to Theatrical Shenanigans with me, your host, Rachel Feeney Williams. Since January 2023, I've been bringing you audio plays written by playwrights all over the world, accompanied by some fascinating talk with a guest, and this episode will be no exception. My guest this week is based in Southern Maine, USA, and is a familiar voice on Theatrical Shenanigans, having appeared in A Conversation About Mum at the end of Season 1, as well as making a debut as a panellist back in January for The Panel Presents, and he also has many other performances in mini shenanigans later on this year. As well as his association with us, he has a list of achievements literally as long as your arm that spans over 30 years of being involved in theatre. He's been intricately involved in many different societies, as well as being a wonderful playwright of plays that have entertained and emotionally captivated audiences all over the world, as well as winning awards. And as if all that wasn't enough, he started his company Broken Arts Entertainment back in 2015, where he and many other fabulously creative individuals gather together to produce amazing works, one of which is an audio drama serial entitled The Fragile Mind series, which, if you haven't listened to, do, because it's utterly fabulous. I'm thrilled to have him back to chat. Welcome, Joe Swenson.
Hello. Glad to be here. This is exciting.
We're thrilled to have you back. So, as I mentioned in your intro, you've been involved in the arts for over 30 years, but going right back to the beginning, how did you get started?
Oh man, that is kind of loaded. You know, when you're a teenager and you don't know where you fit in because you've had a rough childhood, you kind of go where people that you trust want you to go. And so I had a friend. Her name's Kristen. I was 15 years old, a sophomore in high school, and I had never done a show, never done theater in any kind of capacity. And she said, Joe, why don't you audition for Brigadoon? I'm auditioning. And I was like, yeah, of course. Yeah. And it's a huge school, 3,000 kids. There was over 250 kids that auditioned for the show, and I got in. And
Wow.
yeah, it was like, it was like amazing. And then it was an incredible experience. John Kerr, who was the director, I literally switched all my priorities at that point. I went from being in band to doing every drama class I could do, because I was fascinated with the opportunity to be somebody else, somebody different, step into somebody's shoes, and really immerse myself into the character. And it became kind of my MO early on anyway. But so that's how I got started in theater.
But then from performing, you also have a gorgeous collection of plays. How did you kind of span outwards into playwriting?
Yeah, again, another unique scenario. I've always dabbled in writing, like I hadn't really been serious about it. Wrote a couple novels back in 2015. And one of them was called Letter Number 3. It was a young adult fiction novel, part of a series that I'd never completed. But and I'd started a bunch of novels. Like I thought that was the thing that was going to help me continue my journey. And then because I was obviously acting, I was doing professional improv. I was doing all the, everything. I was directing. I did everything else related to theater except playwriting. And I was, so I wrote this play in 2015, just kind of on a whim. Like I felt a connection to the spoken word and slam poetry, right? Felt this weird connection. And I've always been, and I do motivational speaking. And one of the things that I talk about is how people that have gone through trauma in their lives usually come out of it. There's a bunch of ways that you come out of it, but there's several phases, right? You're the victim, you're a survivor, but then there's the champion. You can become a champion, and that champion recognizes that they have superpowers. And we're talking about invisibility or the actual ability to read minds. But what we are talking about is like incredible awareness, insane amounts of empathy. You know, those are superpowers. And so I would talk about these things, and I developed these characters through slam poetry that I decided to put into a play called We Are the Broken People. And takes place at a nightclub, and unfortunately there's a gunman who shows up to the nightclub, to all these different people that are in line waiting to get into this nightclub, and using their superpowers, they stop but you get their backstory and everything, and so it's 14 slam poems put together to tell this really beautiful story. Won a bunch of awards. I was like, okay, well, maybe this is, maybe this performance art was maybe the genre that I would go into. So then I wrote a bunch of improv infused scripts that are similar in scope to We Are the Broken People. And I created Broken Arts Entertainment back in 2015. And then I couldn't stop writing.
But of course you wear multiple hats, obviously, as a producer, director, performer, and playwright. Do you have a preferred hat, or is it many labors equally loved?
It is many labors equally loved. I enjoy creating art. Like, creating art is so important to who I am and my catharticism, my id, so to speak, because it's what really propels me, gives me purpose. And so when I'm creating art in any parts of the art, I will say, though, and I'm sure you'll appreciate this, I will say editing can be amazing and editing can be the worst. There are times when you're like, oh man, I really nailed that. That music went well. The sound effects hit hard. I was like, yeah, this is great. And then there's times when you're like, I just wish that my actor would have been a little closer to the mic. But it's, I love it all. I love teaching too. Like, I love teaching the elements that I'm passionate about, like dialogue theory, tension acting. Those are the things that I really get into those.
Then obviously, going back to what you said before, as if you didn't have enough to do, you obviously started Broken Arts Entertainment as well as the millions of other things you were doing. What made you decide that was kind of your next step to branch out into audio?
Yeah, it's a great question. Financially, it's a much lighter investment than film. It's been a lighter lift. It's great too, because if I need to bring a sound engineer in, I have a couple of contractors that I can reach out to bring a sound engineer in to fix something that I can't fix otherwise. I mean, it keeps it a lighter load. So myself, Helen May Crawford, and Jack Davis pretty much run the show, and it's, so it makes, and it's easier to get into festivals with audio fiction too. Like, I mean, we're just finding a lot more doors are open because it's fairly new media.
So lastly, just before we move on, because I feel we could talk about you and your work all day. What has been a standout moment for you in your career with the arts? The kind of moment that makes you think, yes, this is why I do this.
In 2006. So I founded a bunch of theater companies. When I was in the Marine Corps, I founded the Cherry Point Players. I was 19 years old and I directed 2 shows, and and it was great. It was a really wonderful experience. Cherry Point Players still exists today in Cherry Point, North Carolina. But I was the founder, so that was pretty cool. But I would say that the big moment for me was reading Frank McGinnis's, an Irish playwright, Frank McGinnis's Someone to Watch Over Me. And it's about 3 guys who are stuck in a cell in Lebanon. It takes place in the early 80s, and it's loosely based off of the Terry Waite kidnapping situation, where you have an English doctor, an Irish journalist, and an old English professor. And so it basically starts off like a joke, right? And American doctor. And the American doctor and the Irish playwright start off on the stage. Now, the Irish journalist, not playwright. The Irish journalist is on the stage the entire time. There's no intermission. It's somewhere between 100 and 115 minutes long. And you're chained to a wall the entire time. And it's the funniest show I've ever been a part of. And it's the most heart-wrenching show I've ever been a part of. I mean, you have moments like, and as somebody who's experienced a childhood like I experienced, being able to relate to the mind-numbing things that you do to keep yourself entertained while in a situation like that
Mm.
was it was cathartic. Um, it was beautiful to get into somebody else's head, into somebody else's like culture, like I did so much research for the role. I did all this incredible stuff. The show went off and it was such a hit that it got a reprisal. And yeah, it showed me where the art could go.
Mm.
And I was part of it. Like I built it. I was part of it. It's just incredible. It was absolutely an incredible experience. And from there, I mean, I was already hooked anyway with theater, but from there it was, I need to create more art like this.
So now we move on to talking about our playwright and play for this week. Evan Balfman is a teacher, author, and playwright based in Southern California, with a number of his plays published through Hoya Publishing, Youth Plays, Next Stage Press, and Drama Notebook. In addition to that, he's also a playwriting member of Playground LA, a company member with Force of Nature, and if all that wasn't enough, he's also found success writing horror fiction, with his works recently published in anthologies by Critical Blast Publishing, No Bad Books Press, and Grinning Skull Press, so quite a list of achievements there. Evan's play is entitled Conflict Resolution and is described by Evan as being inspired by the drama, conflict, in our lives and the world at large. We might not want conflict, but it's always going to be there. Do we need a little bit of it, or not? Theatrical Shenanigans presents Conflict Resolution by Evan Balfman.
Oh, come on. Really? Really? This is ridiculous. Hey, enough of this. Let me in already, will you? I know you're in there. Seriously?
Sounds like it's really coming down out there. Hope you don't catch a cold.
Sure you don't.
Gotta know this is a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, because you're an asshole.
Well, it is my nature.
Get out of my way.
What? No hello, no long time no see?
You suck, you know that? Like, really. You're the worst.
I take that as a compliment.
I know you do. And put the gun down already. I'm shaking because I'm cold and wet, not because you're pointing that thing at me. Close the door, huh?
No.
What?
No. You shut it yourself.
You won't shut the door?
Nope.
That's childish, don't you think?
Why, thank you.
Really, is nothing beneath you?
Nothing. The door, though. Yeah, I didn't intend for it to get stuck like that. Maybe you should call a locksmith?
Well, those types of things tend to happen when you're around, don't they?
Yeah.
Like the weather. Hasn't been a storm like this since before I got into town.
Must have been nice.
Rained a little bit here and there, sure. Helped some of the local crops grow. But this is crazy. Forecast said it would be nice and sunny all week. When the sky opened up, I knew right away it was you.
Ooh, how flattering.
You kind of ruined your own surprise.
You're just too smart for me.
Yet no matter how many times I send you away, you always come back. You always find me, don't you?
Let's face it, Rez, I'm just...
Resolution. We aren't friends. I've got no nickname for you, Conflict. And you don't have one for me.
We're family, Rez.
No, we aren't.
Yes, we are.
Aren't.
Are.
Aren't.
Are.
Maybe we originated from the same idea, but we aren't family. We aren't friends. We've always been, always will be, too different. Okay?
Yeah, we're more alike than you admit.
We're opposites, and that's why we really shouldn't be around each other.
Sorry, Rez, but as much fun as I have away from you, I have even more fun by your side. Yeah, I'm sort of lost without you, you know. Finding you is like coming home.
You're always trying to burn down your home, raise it, and create a bunch of chaos.
It's what I do. It's who I am.
These people here, they're good folks. They don't need any of your bullshit.
Sure they do. Everyone does.
No one does.
Do we really need to argue about this again?
Come on, like it's not what you want.
Well, I guess you're right there.
You believe people need you. They need the drama, the trouble, the struggle you bring.
Toughens them up. A little bit of fighting makes people stronger. But you want to keep them weak.
I want them happy.
Happiness is weakness.
Happiness is what everyone strives for.
Boring. You read, don't you?
I had a nice little library in my old place, but you tore out the pages from most of my books.
You watch television, movies.
You cancelled my cable, scratched my DVDs.
Oh, yeah. After I stomped on your glasses. Used the shards to carve messages into the discs. You look good in contacts, you know?
I had laser eye surgery.
Oh, should have been there with you. Blinded you. Burned holes into your eyes.
Yeah, okay. Keep barking.
What?
You keep saying you want to hurt me, like really hurt me. But all you ever do is petty juvenile shit. You're all bark. Where's the real bite?
Bullets bite.
If I thought you were actually going to use that, I would have already used it against you.
Try.
So, you were saying about books, TV, movies?
Have you ever read or seen a story where everything goes perfectly for the characters?
I don't know.
You haven't. You know why? Because storytellers don't want to bore their audiences. Conflict is interesting. Conflict is what keeps people tuned in and on the edges of their seats.
Doesn't suspense keep people on the edge of their seats?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about her.
Fine. Since we're talking about ourselves in the third person now, conflict may be interesting, but the people reading the books and watching the TV, they want resolution. They want conflict to be defeated. They want good to triumph over annoying.
Not always.
Usually. In a truly good story, there is always solid resolution. Conflict does not win in the end.
How does our story end?
How it ends every time. I bury you alive. I abandon you at sea. I chain you up and drop you off in the middle of a desert.
Yeah, it's funny. None of those is permanent. It's like you're leaving me an opening. You want the possibility of me coming back. Why is that?
I don't kill.
What if conflict requires it?
You haven't yet.
Haven't I brought enough earthquakes, tsunamis, serial killers, suicide bombers, and riots to warrant a stronger reaction out of you?
There are other ways of dealing with you.
Yeah, other ways that don't work. It took me a while this time, but I found you. I will always find you. We're connected in our souls. We're linked.
You're a pesky bug buzzing around my ear.
Bug. Ah, that's nice. Yeah, good idea, too. Ooh, how about I bring in a swarm of locusts to eat up all the crops in this town? Or a plague of mosquitoes to spread malaria across the countryside?
You're not God.
Close enough. I do what I want, and I watch what happens. That's who I am.
You're a child. An adolescent bully in a middle school locker room.
Exactly. This whole world is a giant-ass middle school, and you're the clueless principal, trying to keep everything in order. But it can't work that way. Face it. People like drama. They can't wait to read about it in magazines and watch it on the news.
Not true.
People might not like problems coming their way, but they eat it up when bad stuff happens to someone else. Even you must like it. Why else am I given chance after chance after chance?
Because I have a line I don't cross.
But why do you have this line?
Because I do.
Yep, but why?
Stop.
I don't stop. I bark, bark, bark.
Shut up. Christ.
Okay, maybe you don't like me. There's lots of evidence pointing to that.
Yes. Lots.
But you are lost without me. Because without me, you're nothing. You have no purpose. If I'm gone, this world, our home, it's a sad, predictable place. Smiles, laughter, good things happening to everybody all the time. Who wants that?
Everyone should.
No! Bad needs to happen so that people appreciate the good. A world full of happiness would be bland. And don't forget that when people are happy, they get lazy and complacent. There goes all the hard work, productivity, and innovation.
I've heard all this before. It comes down to a simple fact. Ask a person if he wants to be happy or to be conflicted, and he will always say happy.
Yeah, but that person never will be. People don't know how to be happy.
Because you won't let them be.
You're the one who keeps me around. Yeah, you get rid of me briefly, take a little vacation from me, take a breather for a bit. But you always let me come back. You're just as responsible as I am.
I'm not.
You are.
Not.
Are.
Not.
Are.
Not.
Are!
Shut the hell up!
Make me.
Don't be stupid.
Do it. Or I'm going to take this gun into the nearest liquor store and shoot the man behind the register.
Yeah, sure you will.
Maybe I walk into a mall and start handing out cancer.
Fuck you. Leave these people alone.
I go into a hospital in the wing where all the newborn babies are, and I...
God damn it! Just stop it already! What the...
It doesn't work because I...
Oh my God. I almost shot.
You motherfucker.
No, you made me.
No, you just tried to kill me. By your own volition, your own choice. How does it feel to be bit, you son of a bitch? You thought you didn't need me? I don't need you. This is my world, my home. I'll do with it what I please.
Well, I think it's been a while since an ending has left me truly speechless. That was George Sapio as Conflict and Fiona Leishmann as Resolution in Conflict Resolution by Evan Baufman. So, Joe, what did you think?
So typically this type of show is not my cup of tea. I like real people, I like real things, but this show changed my perception. Yeah, so it was great because I grew a little having listened to the show. One of the things that stood out to me was, first of all, the acting was tremendous. Like, it really captured the two characters, Conflict and Resolution, really, really well. I thought it was an interesting choice to have Conflict be an American actor and have Resolution be a British actor, but it was, it worked out tremendously. Like, it was a great juxtaposition between each other, and you find yourself rooting for both characters at different times throughout the show. And I thought that George Sapio did an amazing job of escalating the characters, but slowly. It was a slow burn in the escalation, and you felt at times like, well, yeah, Resolution can't be without, you can't have resolution without a conflict. Yeah. And you can't have conflict without the desire to resolve that conflict.
But I'm always fascinated when presented with a play that has characters that aren't people, and even more so when the characters are concepts, essentially, which is what these guys were, because it leaves you with so much more free reign when deciding, as you say, how they should be played and who they should be played by. because there'll be people who read into, you know, having conflict as an American and resolution as British, or having conflict as a man and resolution as a woman. But you could have had that run the other way, and you still have the same discussions and debates about what it means to have them performed a certain way or with a certain accent.
Yeah, and at times as a playwright, I found myself like, man, what would I name these if I wanted to go in a different direction and I wanted to name these people? Well, what would I name them to make it? Because you could name them, and the writing is so good that you would still understand that it is conflict versus resolution. And I just wonder, I was wondering as a playwright, like, do they need to be named? Because and referencing each other in that manner. But yeah, it's fantastic. Really great to listen to. The thing that I geeked out the most though was the clock. Yeah, the constant ticking of the clock was in the background was an incredible piece of sound effect magic. Like it was so cool to hear the clock in the moments of silence where tension was being built, and the clock doesn't change, and it was just this really interesting additional poetic piece, part of it that I don't even know. Maybe it's just me that'll geek out about this, but it was the constant of time that doesn't change while the escalation is happening, and the escalation is happening on almost a metered kind of pace, and that escalation's happening, and it doesn't really it feels like it's being held back by time, and you want it to escalate, and it continue, and then it finally gets there, but the clock continues to tick at the same exact rate, and it was, I don't know, like that part of it was absolute magic to me.
It was quite funny because I when I read it the first time, I remember it starts with this kind of really whole juvenile thing of, you know, locking the door when it's raining outside. And then it's, as you say, it escalates from playful to antagonistic to downright hostile to out and out violence.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's the escalation of conflict, though. You get people who antagonize each other, and sometimes it will start with just an innocent prank or an innocent thing to annoy them and escalate from there. What did strike me though was, if resolution really is dead, what's conflict going to do now? Because he will get bored eventually.
Yeah. I mean, free reign on chaos. So that's that's my thought.
It's like I say, leaving conflict entirely to his own devices is like giving a child free reign in a candy store. You know, it sounds like a great thing to start with, but eventually they will get a tummy ache, or their teeth will start to fall out, or they'll just get bored of sugar.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. If you have, I mean, and although I will say that it was an interesting metaphor for kind of how our world is right now. Like, it's we are in a situation where conflict is everywhere. Like, and it's in every conversation, and it's an interesting situation because there aren't enough resolution people. Like, there's just not enough of those people around to fix what is broken.
But you do think about it, especially when he makes that point about like stories in general. But you think back to like the TV shows you watch. If you took out all the conflict of your favorite TV show, how boring would that be?
Right, exactly. You're just looking at people's normal lives doing nothing.
There'd be nothing left in Game of Thrones.
Opening scene and we're done.
Okay, we are almost out of time, but Joe, final overall opinion of the piece.
Yeah, I thought it was a great piece. Again, I usually am not into meta type pieces, and clearly this is meta when it comes to playwriting, storytelling, story building, those sort of things, but also kind of how our world exists. And this one changed my opinion. Absolutely changed my opinion on how that can be seen, how that can be done, and the need for them to actually be named conflict and resolution. Otherwise, the story doesn't really hold value. Yeah, so I really love the piece. Yeah, I thought so. Thank you for sharing it with me.
Absolutely no problem. We are out of time, but Joe, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute privilege to have a chat to you.
Yeah, you too. Awesome. Thanks for having me.
And that is the end of another show. I hope you enjoyed the play for this week, as well as my chat with Joe Swenson. And if you did, then please be sure to give us a like, follow, share, or comment on our Facebook or Instagram pages. You can also follow the show on Podbean or give us a rating on Amazon, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. And if you're feeling particularly generous, you can pop over to our Buy Me a Coffee page and purchase us a pre-show cocktail. We will be back in a fortnight where we have not one but 2 episodes over the weekend, including our next instalment of The Panel Presents on Saturday and the next episode of Series 3 on the Sunday, so I hope you can join us then. In the meantime though, I've been Rachel Feeney-Williams, this is Theatrical Shenanigans, bring down the curtain and saying, I hope you can join us next time. Theatrical Shenanigans, part of an RFW Scripts production, found on Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, and anywhere else you can find your podcasts. Music is written and produced by Chris Cody.